One of the things that Andy and Michael and I get to do very often is you get a request from a publisher, would you write a blurb for the back of the book? And it requires an incredible amount of time, and you think, oh, I have to read the whole thing, I have to demonstrate I've read it, I have to come up with something pithy. And then it arrived. All that, 640 pages, I've got to get into one sentence. So I sat down, and I have to say, Mick and Tim, this is a book that's a cross between reading a J.K. Rowling, and as you know, in her career, she got longer and longer in her books. But the point is, it was so engrossing to go through and see the shenanigans that went on. And the other half, it was a kind of like an Akare book, trying to work out the guilty parties, the good people, who good, but it's just stunningly written in terms of the machinations that went on over the last 60 or so years in your country. Since I've had the book, I'm trying to convince someone here in Australia to do a similar book, get behind the scenes, try and make a story about the people and the way they thought that led the country to where it's like. But I do want to recall, for some of you who are of this vintage, that here in Australia and New Zealand, up until about 20 years ago, if you flew in to our country, the plane landed, you had to stay in your seats. The air hostesses went down and opened up all the cabins above. And two men got on in socks and sandals, and they went down with spray cans and sprayed everything. Now, we used to convince tourists coming into Australia that that was to get rid of bugs and fruit fly and all that. It wasn't. It was to make sure that no British ideas got into the country. That stopped. And since then, when I read this book, the parallels with what's happened here in Australia are quite amazing. So I thank you for a stunning book. Despite the length, it is a very good read. And quite frankly, it does pray for a second edition, second volume to what's going on, because the way in which you've been able to use your charisma, your wisdom, your approachability to get these people to say these things is a very, very rare treat. So I thank you for one of the best books I've read on how a system come to be like it is. Really impressive.